There is a god, and a merciful one to boot, it seems, as Marvel and Disney's Blade has been indefinitely delayed again. Was that the third or fourth time or something? It was supposed to come out in November 2025. It has now been taken off the release calendar, and God, this thing started. I think the earliest announcement for a Blade movie was in 2019. Since then, it's gone through, 3 directors and allegedly 6+ scripts. And this was inevitable, because you cannot make a Blade movie in the current year. At the very least, nothing that will actually resemble a Blade movie. And this isn't just the meme, there has only ever been one Blade, there will only ever be one Blade, even though, yeah, no, that's probably actually true. It probably is. See, the simple fact is that no one can ever possibly be Wesley Snipes quite the way that Wesley Snipes was able to be. As I've said previously, Wesley Snipes' Blade is the only character that could be so effortlessly cool, intimidating, and inherently capable as to have him enter a room and have it make sense that the vampires are afraid of him. That's what makes the opening of Blade 1 such an absolute masterpiece. The fact and you look around, you see this dance club, there's blood streaming from the ceilings, there's loud music, all of them are vampires, all of them are monsters that could kill any human being with next to no effort, and then Blade appears. And not only does he beat the shit out of them, they scatter in fear of his ass. I don't think you will ever be able to recreate that, certainly not with the modern crop of action hero characters, and there's also where the big problem comes in. So as mentioned, this movie has allegedly gone through 6+ scripts, and incrementally they have been trying to move away from one of the original core premises, which was the introduction of Brielle Brooks, Blade's daughter, who was, according to rumors again, initially supposed to replace Blade in the movie. And the entire setup was essentially bring up Blade, use him as an excuse to put Blade on the poster to get a little PR out there, and then quietly shove him off to the side and allow Brielle to take up the position as lead character. And, yeah, that certainly does look like a modern day character. Although, to be fair, she's also got some art of her that looks really good, so there is at least a degree of attractive character in Brielle Brooks here, even though it might be a little bit more difficult to find on occasion. Now, this immediately illustrates the problem. Blade is a masculine movie, okay? It is an action setting, it's a cool setting, it is a movie made for, well, normal people, for the plebeians, the brutish majority that the cinema critics hates. And I'll remind you, Blade won as well 58% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. On Metacritic, it's worse, 47. The critics hated this movie. It didn't have enough of a plot. It didn't have enough justification. It was just a silly superhero movie. As I remind you, Blade was the first proper Marvel superhero as well, and still one of the greatest to this day. They hated it back then, they are going to hate it a lot more today. Any script that does not include demasculating Blade and making him into a pussy in his own movie would be panned by the critics. And since again this started in 2019, it started before we really saw the cresting of the wave. This was one of the high points, both of Marvel, which is why it was probably greenlit in the first place, because Marvel was like, okay, well, we clearly can do no wrong, and we are going to ride the high of Avengers for an eternity, right? Maybe in movie business terms, but not in real life terms, sadly. And so we're gonna greenlight this, and we're gonna do Blade the right way by not doing Blade at all, of course. But then the first script didn't really work out, because it turns out that replacing Blade in a Blade movie is very difficult without writing a script that will, even to the minds and eyes of a blatant wokeist SJW, seem absolutely goddamn ridiculous. Like, even professional man-haters is going to have a hard time writing Blade out of a Blade movie, okay? Such is the gravitas of the character, such is the impact that Wesley Snipes left upon the character. He is Blade as much as Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, perhaps even more, in fact. And then eventually, apparently in the future scripts, they downsized the role of Brielle Brooks, attempting to make it more into a Blade movie, but this introduces its own set of problems, of course. As we've talked about now previously with the Amazon and Henry Cavill show, which is now again probably dead, because Cavill is taking on more and more jobs, including now a Voltron show for Amazon, which... yeah, maybe he will just be on a vague productive role in the 40K television show, and thus will still have time to do it, but I will then also hasten to add on that if all Henry Cavill is a glorified, checkbox on the list of things that the 40K TV show needs to promise us to get you to click on it and buy it, well, he's probably not going to have a whole lot of creative influence, if any, whilst he's busy doing something else. In other words, the only reason to actually be excited for a 40K live-action TV show, Henry Cavill, wouldn't actually be all that involved. But as I talked about with that, a big part of the reason why Amazon missed their first deadline and is now barreling towards missing their second deadline is because I damn near guarantee you they don't have the writing staff capable of making a 40K storyline. It is an inherently masculine, right-wing, and conservative universe, the absolute opposite of anything any modern-day writer in Amazon or Hollywood in general is capable of producing. Exact same here for Marvel and Blade. Remember in the video I did a little while ago, we talked about the moral foundations theory, right? Where the left only was able to see a couple out of the 5 total baseline moral foundations. Well, this is harkening back yet again to that. The left cannot write a script for Blade today because they are not able to portray Blade in a positive light. Everything he stands for, exceptionalism, masculinity, strength, the ability to go it alone, tough it out, all of this stuff is something that they do not understand. Not to mention the bromance between him and Whistler, of course. Oh boy, I immediately get flashbacks to various arguments that Sam and Frodo were gay lovers, and there you go, there's a nice little thing to have buried into your brain as a potential Blade script in this day and age. But when you've got a character like Blade that is so obviously inherently masculine, the scripts you make for him that is everything but is immediately not going to pass even the barest of quality control. It would need to be a Joker 2 scenario for this to ever get greenlit. And there is simply nobody, active right now that could do a Blade movie justice besides, I guess, Ryan Reynolds, who has so much glory now for the Deadpool and Wolverine's success that he might actually be able to pull it off. He might actually be able to get the creative freedom required to make a Blade movie, though I immediately hasten to add the caveat that Ryan Reynolds is not necessarily a very good writer. As Deadpool and Wolverine, now don't get me wrong, I love the movie. I consider it geek comfort food. Like, that final scene with Deadpool and Wolverine clenching hands to save the universe, orgasmic, especially after a decade of garbage thrown down everybody's throats. But the story overall, oh god, it is awful. I said as much in my review of the movie. It is the worst kind of multiverse plot, the most banal and terrible multiverse plot you can imagine, and it drags and drags. and drags. Like a morbidly obese woman hauling her butt cheeks over your face. It seemingly will never ever actually end. The suffering merely continues. For one brief moment of absolute joy as you realize that not only is everything nearing its end, but that you can indeed start to see daylight. But with Blade, I literally, all you need to do with Blade, this is another thing too, it's not that difficult to make a Blade movie. Now the casting is going to be next to impossible, frankly, and unless you find some way to CGI Wesley Snipes back into it, honestly I would practically give up right there. But the core key pieces of a Blade movie is pretty simple. Have Blade step onto the scene, do something absolutely ridiculously over the top awesome to fully establish him as actually that Blade, then have a bit on the back foot, introduce some new enemy, eventually having him end up betrayed or captured, and then making a sacrifice, like, in 2, where they bleed him dry for a bit, and then have him return, kick some major ass again, and voila, there you go. It's not exactly the most complicated 3-part story to ever write, but getting that to actually come across as honest instead of a satirical critique of masculinity is very difficult in today's day and age. This is going to require an actually kick-ass male main character. And they are allergic to that fact. I mean, we can kind of see it a little bit now with the Penguin show, where I talked about how amazing I thought the first episode was, and how I was also worried that they might start shoving the Penguin off to the side to replace him with Sophia. And, well, we have somewhat been heading in that direction, haven't we? And now the new rumors are coming out that apparently Sophia is going to be playing a major role in the new Batman movie. Meaning that not only does she survive the Penguin TV show, which, honestly, that was the only way I could see the way they're setting her up as a main bad guy for the Penguin to defeat and, in essence, kill, to then move the focus back onto the Penguin, but now, not only will she live, she will remain a major antagonist. So, where does that leave Mr. Cobblepot, I wonder? I think I probably know, but we can hold out some degree of hope for at least a few more episodes, right? Well, we'll see. But, anywho, Blade delayed indefinitely. It should be cancelled. And honestly, as much as I do hate the idea of CGI characters, just get Wesley Snipes back. Now, the problem is he did look too old in Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't know if he can pull it off again, but god damn it, at this point, I am more than happy to try, so long as it spares us from a 2020, what at this point, 8 Blade. Maybe things will tipped around enough by then to actually make it a Blade movie, but not holding my breath just yet. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.